All right.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 68 of the All Dolphins podcast. And I struggled to come up with a name for quite a while. And the only name I had in my mind, unfortunately, was revealed by a friend of the show who put a picture of Eric Laxo, who was an offensive lineman, I want to say either late 70s or the 80s.
So people are helping you cheat now, is what
Yes,
you're saying.
absolutely. And then at that point, I couldn't think of any other number 68 other than Robert Hunt, of course, but I don't want to go with current players. That's too easy.
Hold on, wait a minute. Are you saying that Robert Hunt is not the best 68 in Dolphin history? Is that what you're saying? Is that what we're putting on record right now?
I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look at my list because I did the best players to wear each number a couple of years ago. And at that time, Robert Hunt hadn't developed enough of a body of work to rank. He may be at that place yet. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back.
I challenge you on behalf of Robert Hunt.
Jesus. Okay.
By tomorrow, I want an answer. Is he the best 68 in Dolphins history? We need to know.
But then here, and then you can relate to this one. You'll know who this one is. And it dawned on me, wait a second, how can I forget this guy who holds a place in Dolphin history? Not sure how great a place it is, but he does hold a place in Dolphin history. Come on. 2013, biggest story in the NFL, maybe over a 5-year span.
No, not Richie Incognito.
Yes,
oh,
Richie Incognito.
Man. Yeah.
You're 68.
Rob might have to take an L to Richie.
What'd you say?
I said Rob might have to take an L to Richie.
Yeah, he was a very, very good player.
Very, very good player. Very misunderstood young man. Bullygate is a very tough saga in my life. I know you lived in it. What fans don't realize is that CNN and every news crew was in our locker room for an entire month.
Yes.
And completely distracting, disrupting the NFL world and NFL life. The Ted Wells report, I've never read 472 pages so fast in my life. And really what it came down to is the lesson I learned from the Ted Wells report was be careful what you text people, because it can be taken out of context.
It can and will be used against you in a court of public opinion or in a court of
court of public opinion. Yes, because that never hit a court of law. What should also be revealed, and I don't even know if you know this, is that they're doing a Jonathan Martin documentary.
I didn't know that, and you know why I knew that? Because
they approached you.
No, because you had told me that.
Oh, yes, they approached me about being part of the Jonathan Martin documentary, and I will say this to the All Dolphins family. That's what we're calling you now.
Love it.
I said no, and the reason I said no is because if you can get, it should not be a Jonathan Martin documentary. It should be a Jonathan Martin and Richie Incognito documentary. And if you're not going to cover them both equally and tell the full story, I don't necessarily want to be part of it, because Richie Incognito was made to be a scapegoat and was made to be a villain. And I think Richie, to me, and this is not going to be a popular opinion, but Richie, to me, was not the villain. He was not the hero, but he was certainly not the villain of that story.
Yeah, because it wasn't completely, and again, this is a word I'm going to use, I've used it before, nuance. It wasn't like bad guy over here, completely good guy over here. I mean, there was some nuance over there. And no, I completely respect your stance. Even if it's a Jonathan Martin documentary, if I'm going to guess, a lot of it would have focused on that episode. And if you're going to cover that episode in the interest of fairness, as a good documentarian, you need to at least give Richie the opportunity to state his case, present his side.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that story and that saga, and put Bullygate in 20 words or less. Summarize it for the people.
A very unfortunate incident that marred the Miami Dolphins 2013 season involving offensive lineman Richie Incognito and Jonathan Martin.
That is a great way to summarize it. I looked at it as Richie paid a hefty price.
He did.
For being a meathead, trying to be a leader in his dysfunctional ways.
Correct.
having, grown up in an abusive house. That's how he showed love, unfortunately. And he truly did care about Jonathan Martin. And unfortunately, it came out that came across as abuse to Jonathan, who was, in my opinion, looking for an excuse to stop playing football.
It's not a crazy opinion, because as we saw, the Dolphins eventually traded him to San Francisco, and as I recall, that didn't last very long. And we could do an entire show on that episode, because there's a lot of layers to it.
There's a ton of layers to it, tons of layers to it. But yeah, it's definitely worthy of a documentary. However, if it's not told accurately and both sides aren't told, it shouldn't be done.
No, that's a very fair point. Shall we proceed?
Yes, we shall.
Okay, and we're gonna start also with a little explanation. We're later than we normally are on this Thursday, September 7th. And the reason is that we want to wait, as Omar's laughing, because Omar may not. I'm gonna share with our family that Omar is not totally on the same page as I am as far as this is concerned. I want to wait until we get the official injury report to make sure we're on top of the latest developments. And the Dolphins apparently have now decided, when they play a team from the West Coast, this is a fairly new phenomenon. They will not release their injury report to the media until they get the other injury report from the other team. Since the Chargers are on the West Coast, it's later in the day. So we just basically got the final official injury report not that long ago. And the second we got it, basically it was like, okay, let's start taping.
And the only change in the injury report is that Jalen Waddle participated in practice fully. Okay.
And it's a very significant development. And we did not know that was going to be the only development. And there was one for the Chargers, who had a player downgraded from limited in practice to did not participate. That's the outside linebacker, Chris Rumph II. And if you go in that direction on the second day of practice, chances are he's not playing. The other one is the rookie linebacker, Hanley, who also didn't practice for a second consecutive day. Those two guys, can't imagine will play. I'm at the point where I'm almost ready to say that Terron Armstead, who hasn't practiced since August 17th, and I know he played 5 games last year. If you read my story on alldolphins.com, you would know this fact. Terron Armstead played 5 games last year without practicing at all during the week. I think this is a different story, because now it's not only just this week, we're talking also the 3 weeks before that. August 17th is the last time Terron Armstead practiced, and he practiced basically for one play of 11 on 11s. So
I am still holding out hope that he will practice tomorrow.
Okay.
That they'll take a look at him and determine, go or no go. But yeah, I'm leaning in your direction. However, based on the information that I learned from Poupart's alldolphins.com story, which was a very interesting unearthing of information.
Oh, Omar, stop. Omar, really
only
stop.
Poupart can find. I mean, based on that history, even Mike McDaniel said he would not rule it out that he would play without practicing at all. And we shall see. Could be a game time decision.
Correct. But at this point also, again, let's say, is the best case scenario, is it really realistic to think that he could go from DNP to full, although Friday is a very light practice? But my guess is if he does practice, it would be limited.
He's got to test it. If he can't test it, he can't go.
Oh, I agree. But
we agree on that?
Shake hands on that one? Yes. My overriding point is, even if he is able to play, would this be a case where this would be one occasion where Terron Armstead at that particular level, given the lack of practice time, would he still be better than Kendall Lamb at left tackle?
If you asked me about Kendall Lamb the first 3 weeks of training camp, I would have said probably not. If you asked me about Kendall Lamb, who practiced the week that Bradley Chubb decided to turn it up and turn it on, I would say absolutely. So I've been looking for Kendall Lamb in the locker room for about 3 days now, just to sort of talk to him. I've actually enjoyed talking to him. He's been AWOL. Not AWOL, I shouldn't say that. He's been occupied with his other responsibilities and things of that nature. So I have not found him inside the locker room. But I just need to talk to him about the mentality, what happened that last week, like what the heck was going on. And this is really a very pivotal. This is why he was signed. And this is the job that he won. It wasn't like he inherited it. You know, I would argue to you that he was a top 3 performer when it comes to offensive linemen, all training camp, putting him ahead of Connor Williams.
Yes.
And are you ready? And this is a big moment. Now, he started a significant batch of NFL games. I'm going to look it up right now because I don't remember it off the top of my head. You're probably a number guy, so you probably do remember it off
38,
the top of your
maybe?
head.
Is that many? That sounds high.
No, I don't think it's 30, but it's up there. It's 29. Look at you. You're so close. Just that close. I would have made you the numbers Rain Man and actually knew it was 30 games. This is a young man who has started 30 NFL games throughout his career, made it to the league from Appalachian State as an undrafted player, has been here, always made a 53-man roster, never churned, all 3-man roster, lost jobs because of some difficulties at other spots, and you need a roster spot. But the question is, you're now 30. Do you still have that in you to be a starter for 6 games, or are you just an NFL journeyman? And I think this is one of those games where you're going to go against some big daddies at pass rusher, some monster guys.
Yeah.
And this game could either cement you in the league for another 4 years, or it can send you out real quick.
Yeah, no, and I did a story today on alldolphins.com looking at the pass rush battle with the 2. I used the term marquee and somebody pushed back on it. Sorry, they're marquee players. Jalen Phillips
said they're not marquee players. I need a name. I need a name.
Dr. Gridiron pushed back on it because Phillips hasn't reached double-digit sacks and because Chubb has been injured. Well, Chubb made the Pro Bowl last year. Jalen Phillips has 8.5 sacks in each of his 2 NFL seasons. And
you're talking about the Dolphins players.
Yes, but I would still say they're.
I thought you were talking about Chargers pass rushers.
Yeah, no, I know that. I'd still say that the Dolphins guys are marquee players. Jalen Phillips. Say what?
I would push back at that. Dolphins aren't marquee pass rushers.
Okay. Oh my God, we're getting into semantics.
I mean,
Bradley Chubb was first of all, they're 2 first-round picks, 5th overall and 18th.
Okay.
Phillips has 8.5 sacks each of his first 2 seasons. There's been predictions of greatness. Peter Schrager on Good Morning Football has him as his number 2 breakout player of 2023. He's talking 15, 16 sacks. I don't see it, but just telling you that it's out there. And again, Bradley Chubb has had double-digit sacks, and he's made the Pro Bowl 3 times. So, okay, we're going to argue with semantics. Anyway.
Okay.
Right.
Now let me go. How many times has Bradley Chubb been the top pass rusher on his own team? Okay, probably 1 season.
He was in Denver. Who else was a better passer or more productive?
Von Miller. Von Miller, you remember that guy?
Well, except Von Miller went to the Rams for 1 or 2 years, and he went to Buffalo.
And that was the year that Bradley Chubb finally became the best pass rusher on his own team. Until you actually do it and produce not 1, but 2 double-digit sack seasons, I can't name you a marquee player. I am a huge Jalen Phillips fan. Love everything about the guy. Think he left probably 6 sacks on the table last year. However, I can't give him that marquee name. Like I can't say.
Hey, so you and Dr. Gridiron can have a little party together and then agree and shake hands and all that. Anyway, the point of the whole thing is and last year in the game on Sunday night, the Dolphins pass rush actually was more effective than the Chargers pass rush, and the advanced stats show it. It was Herbert was pressured 26% of the time. I think maybe even closer to 27% of the time. Tua was pressured 21% of the time. 8 quarterback hits on Herbert to 3 on Tua. Here's an important fact though. The Chargers played that game last year without the 2 starting offensive tackles who will be in the lineup Sunday. Rashawn Slater on the left side, who's very, very good, by the way, and Trey Pipkins on the right side, who is serviceable.
And
So
don't forget Derwin James.
correct. No, but I'm talking like strictly in terms of the pass rush here. And then the challenge now with against Bosa and Khalil Mack, the challenge is going to be for Kendall Lamb on the left side, assuming Armstead can't play, and Austin Jackson on the right side. You want to talk about a referendum on Austin Jackson and the direction his 4th NFL season is headed? Part of it's coming very early. Yes.
Listen, Austin's ready. I don't know what psychological guru that he was with that helped him alter and shift his mind to this unwavering, confident guy that I see right now. But he's ready. So I'm ready to put my name on Austin Jackson. Now, I put my name on Jesse Davis, and that didn't turn out very well for me.
And we love Jesse
Austin
Davis. I'm a bit
mentally
different. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you didn't stand up and defend me when he was being bludgeoned to death, and I was being bludgeoned to death when the Dolphins unwisely asked him to play left tackle, the one position that he couldn't play. That's, I'll let that go. But Jesse is, not Jesse. Austin, Austin, we talked to him this week, totally different mindset of a guy who's just ready. And sometimes you just know. And he knows how important this season is. He knows how important it is for his career, redefined his body, redefined his mental state, hungry. So I'm excited to see how this plays out. It's Mac, it's a Bosa. We shall see how it plays out.
Okay, I will take a step back, and I will grant you that one. I was a Jesse Davis defender as well. Wasn't attacked nearly the way you are. I also don't have your profile, my man. So, and that comes with the territory. Interesting that you talk about Austin Jackson.
I take a beating. I took a beating on Jesse Davis.
Worse than
still here, bro.
Worse than with
nobody. Listen, and Dolphin fans, they don't put any respect on a guy who comes up from the practice squad and is like a 5-year starter on the team. Like, no respect whatsoever. Okay, cool.
Wasn't nearly, he wasn't not meant to play left tackle. It wasn't nearly as bad as Dolphin fans made him out to be, and without question.
And he was playing injured that year, but nobody cares about those.
The entire year, correct. And I was making that point throughout that season. You mentioned Austin Jackson. The confidence factor is interesting because offensive coordinator Frank Smith was asked that very question when the 3 coordinators met with the media before practice on Thursday about, does Austin Jackson look more confident to you? And basically he said it's about technique. There's never been an issue with confidence. So we'll take that for what it's worth. But again,
I'm sorry, I disagree, because I've talked to Austin Jackson on many occasions and didn't feel like he was a confident young man. And yes, a lot of those times there were struggles, and when he was moved from left tackle to left guard, and then when he was moved from left guard to right tackle, just didn't have that level of confidence. Now it's borderlining on arrogance, and I love it.
I love it too. And the point that needs to be made here, as it pertains to Frank Smith, is Frank Smith only had him once they moved him to right tackle. Frank Smith wasn't here for the switching from left guard to left tackle, which is when, and I agree with you that you could tell Austin was kind of didn't have the self-confidence that he has right now. So, and I'm also very anxious to see how he pans out. And then one other question about Frank Smith is somebody else took a shot. So, okay, Isaiah Wynn or Liam Eichenberg as your starting left guard. And the answer was the Chargers will find out on Sunday. So, and the Dolphin coaches have basically entered that realm where everything's kind of a state secret.
Yeah,
We're just
I don't think it's a state secret. The guy who played the final 2 exhibition games in there as your starting left guard would be having the opportunity to carry on, especially considering the incumbent, who struggled, suffered a rib injury, and is working his way back from it. I talked to Liam Eichenberg, and he basically said that he got hurt on a pileup of players in the Atlanta Falcons game, and it got to the point where it hurt to breathe. Which is why he had to sit down for a couple of weeks. Obviously, and now that we know this, not to say that it's the excuse, because he struggled the week before that, and then the week of joint practices, and then he got hurt in the game. So that doesn't excuse 2 weeks of struggles previously, but there was times where, especially in the individual period, where if anybody went into Austin Jackson's chest, you were steamrolling your way to the quarterback. So
you mean Eichenberg?
Eichenberg. Sorry. So, and I don't think we're making excuses. Remember, probably podcast number 30, we both sat there and said, he can't be this bad. Like there's no way that you could drop off from like mediocre NFL starter to guy who questionably whether you belong in the league. Like that's a steep drop off. And I think a lot of it possibly had to do with the injury. I like to see where he is when he's totally healed, gets an opportunity to compete again in a battle that's equal, and see where it goes from there. Do I think the battle's equal right now? No, because I think he's working at two disadvantages. One, the injury that still hasn't healed. Last I checked, we don't know what it is, but let's assume that it's fractured or broken or hairline fracture of ribs. That's 6 weeks. We're at week 4. So I don't know if he's all the way healed. And I also don't know if he's going to have the opportunity to compete in practice. I think we're going to look at a situation right now where we're going to see Isaiah Wynn begin the season as a starter, and then his performance will determine whether or not he keeps it or he relinquishes the spot and has the competition opened up. So me personally, that's where I think we are.
Yeah, and the point I want to make is Eichenberg was struggling before that first preseason game. He's barely practiced since then. In Houston, he wasn't doing, which was the week after the Atlanta game. He didn't do any team periods. He was back at practice the following week, didn't play in the preseason finale against Jacksonville. And the other thing too is Eichenberg mentioned that he was injured on the very first play against Atlanta, and he wound up playing, I think it was 10 snaps or whatever. And I remember after that game, I rewatched the game the following day and was focused strictly on Eichenberg for one session of reviewing it just to see how he had performed, because he was a big topic at that point. And I didn't recall him missing a single assignment. I mean, he wasn't blowing people off the line of scrimmage, but considering he was playing with like the nasty rib injury, he was fine as far as that's concerned. But I'm completely with you. And here's the other thing too, is if Wynn's performance in the first, let's say, couple of games is less than completely ideal, where there's, he could, if he completely kicks butt, it could completely cement the starting job. If it's semi-shaky, we're not going to know battles that are taking place or opportunities that Eichenberg is given in practice, because that's going to take place after the media is allowed to watch practice. And I'm not necessarily convinced that no matter how many times we ask, what kind of answers we're going to get. And it could be one of those where it could be shaky with Wynn the first couple of games, and then in week 3, boom, Eichenberg's in the starting lineup. And we'll be like, whoa, okay. And speaking of lineup decisions, this was a little bit more of an answer, but not definitive either. Vic Fangio was asked whether decisions had been made at the safety spot next to Javon Holland and as the outside cornerback opposite Xavier Howard. And he basically suggested that you could see a lot of different players being used in those areas. However, he was asked about the trust factor with Eli Apple and with Cam Smith, and the answer was a hell of a lot more positive for Eli Apple, obviously. And then with Cam Smith, basically the answer was that's still a work in progress. And then with safety, so my guess is it's going to be Eli Apple when the Dolphins are in nickel. And with safety, I think it goes back to what you and I have been saying all along, is you could see a combination of Terron McKinley III, Deshaun Elliott, Brandon Jones.
Yeah, I'm gonna slow down on the Brandon Jones prognostication just because I'm not sure he's all the way back from that knee injury. And you know, I would not rush it.
He's
Just
full at practice,
because
though. He's full at practice.
I know two full practices, and then two full practices doesn't necessarily mean that you're healthy. And I get it. You want to push yourself to not relinquish a starting spot and give guys opportunities. I always go back to my college covering days where I covered Florida State Seminoles and Bobby Bowden. And I once asked Bobby Bowden, the question of the old adage of, can you lose a starting spot to injury? And Bobby Bowden was a firm believer that you shouldn't. But if somebody absolutely kicks down the door, then you can't deny that. And that's one of those things where it'll be interesting to see if Terron McKinley III and Deshaun Elliott can kick down the door. Because to me, this is all about the utilization of Javon Holland. And, when you talk about a Vic Fangio defense, it's built on two things. It's built on those outside linebackers, and it's built on that free safety and how that free safety is used. And he has all the pieces he needs to be to create an elite defense. The question is, can he use Jerome Baker the way that he needs to in terms of playing multiple roles to create the kind of deception and confusion? And does he have the pieces to complement him? And I don't know what the answer to that question is. And we shall see in the season.
But if you mention that if his defense is built on the outside linebackers and your free safety, and you're pushing back on the notion of Chubb and Phillips being marquee players, should we be concerned then?
I'm just saying, I didn't say they don't have the talent to be marquee players. What I'm saying is they haven't done it. And, I know Bradley Chubb made it to the Pro Bowl last year and maybe a year before that, but
Why last year? Why? How did he make it?
I'm not even being disrespectful to the man. I just
Well,
said,
not either,
I know
but how the hell did he make the Pro Bowl? I mean, that's no disrespect. Same as X. Same as X. I mean, how the hell did X make the Pro Bowl last year?
Hey, sometimes it's all about who you know and how your teammates throughout the league vote for you. Those Alabama guys, boy, they make sure they're well represented in the players' top 100 players, and I'm sure they make sure that they're represented in the Pro Bowl. And sometimes it comes down to the agency that you're with, to be honest with you. But let's put that conversation over there.
Okay. That actually this one.
They both have the talent. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
They both have the talent. Javon has the talent. Now, do you have the complementary pieces? You know what I actually go into this Chargers game worried about, outside of the column that I wrote about Mike McDaniel for alldolphins.com, which I encourage you to read because it kind of addresses what I think is an issue that nobody is talking about. People sweep that 5-game losing streak under the rug like it never happened. You were one of the hottest teams in the NFL, had an MVP candidate, and this is before the concussion sidelined Tua, and then you just caught a flat, and you're riding on a donut the rest of the season until you finally got home, which is the playoffs, by backdooring it into the playoffs, because I don't really beat the Jets. The Jets kind of beat themselves.
Yep.
I'm not sure that the issues that were created and presented, and I don't even give the Chargers credit for creating these issues. I give the Niners credit for creating these issues because the 49ers took a physical blueprint and the Chargers just built on it. And then everybody else just cookie cutter copied it. And I'm not sure you fixed it. Are you sure that they fixed it?
No.
Are you sure that
we need to see a counter to that particular antidote that defenses came up with. And my recollection of what the 49ers focused on is they dropped their linebackers way back to take away, because I've said this before, the Dolphins made a living 15 to 20 yards down the middle of the field with Tyreek and Waddle getting wide open. I mean, they were just killing it the whole season. And the 49ers were like, no, we'll have a linebacker back there. The Chargers did that as well. And then it added the component of getting the cornerbacks right on top of Hill and Waddle at the line of scrimmage. I don't recall seeing that from the 49ers.
Press him.
Yeah, press them hard. And again, this is where Mike McDaniel, he's had all off.
And they had the cornerbacks to do it. Yeah, I said, and they had the cornerbacks to do it.
They had Michael Davis, who's really, really good. And they didn't have J.C. Jackson anymore on the other side because he was gone for the year by that time. And they didn't have their slot cornerback, who was Bryce Callahan. The guy, he was an active.
What about Asante Samuels?
Sorry, Asante Samuel was one of the he was active that game, yes. But they were missing Bryce Callahan. Sorry?
Yeah.
You what?
Asante's a dog.
Oh, I know.
A dog.
Michael Davis is their best cornerback, though. Michael Davis can play. Okay, sorry, no disrespect to Asante Samuel, who I know you like, Asante Samuel Jr., I should say. And this is where, as you mentioned, Mike McDaniel's had the entire offseason. He's got to know that teams are going to copycat what worked so well against the Dolphin offense late last season. What's he come up with to counter it?
Well, I think the thing that helps in this situation is Brandon Staley is a disciple of Vic Fangio. So he's basically running a carbon copy with some alterations of Vic Fangio's defense. And Ronaldo Hill was Miami's defensive coordinator. So
he is now.
I mean, I'm sorry. What Ronaldo Hill was the Chargers defense coordinator, is now the Dolphins secondary coach. Mm-hmm. So they've got inside knowledge on what the game plan was and what the strategy is. And what I realize and do agree and do concede is that they have a lot more zone beaters in their defensive coverage now than what they had last year. So the question is, if somebody's deciding to press them and then play zone underneath, can they compensate and address that? And do they have zone beaters for that? But that's why Mike McDaniel has to prove. I've never felt comfortable with this whole genius label. Just because you had the 6th ranked offense in the NFL and you got off to a hot start, that doesn't make you a genius. I think genius should be earned. Bill Belichick gets the genius credit
because he went to Yale.
Well, I mean, yeah, he went to Yale. I mean, does that make you a
smart
genius?
And
so is every Yale graduate a genius? Huh?
No, but it's because he went to Yale and he sounds like he's obviously very well educated, very well spoken. And then he also had, and if I'm going to be honest about it, I think this, if you look at the stats, and I sent you those stats at one time of the running game statistics in San Francisco, I think it's a bit overblown to say that like running game genius and all that. They were like in the 10 to 15 range, just about it. I think 3 of the 5 years he was in charge of the running game.
I'll take 10, 15.
Sorry? I'm sorry?
I said, I'll take 10 to 15. I'll take 10 to 15.
No, I heard, but does that make you a genius? I think that was overblown, especially on the team that focused a lot on the running game. There were 2 seasons out of those 5 where they were like really, really good in the running game. They were never first. I think they were second one time was their highest ranking. So I think the term genius was a tad overblown, and then I don't want to take anything away from Mike McDaniel, again, who's obviously very, very sharp. And I have a lot of respect for his football mind because he schemed Hill and Waddle to the max last year, using full advantage of their speed and getting those guys open 15, 20 yards on the field, pretty much the first 11 games of the season. And then somebody came up with an antidote. And to your point, I don't know. The Dolphins came up with,
and now you got to come up, and that's the thing. And to me, that's the thing that, and I always say this, and people are bothered by it. How Twitter fan people are. I always say I don't judge coaches until they face adversity and you see how they respond to it. I'm not sure while they came out of it, I'm not sure I saw a response. That was a 5-game legit losing streak and you backdoored your way into the playoffs. Okay, the season ended. It expired, which is what I wrote in my column. It's like a gallon of milk. The date expired, but that doesn't mean that the milk is still good. And I'm very curious because it should be year 2 in this offense. There's also so much talk about the communication's better and the language, and Tua can speak Spanish now, and Tua knows jiu-jitsu and all this good stuff. Commitment to the run game. The question is, have you solved that problem? And what counters do you have? And has your offense, and every offense evolves. So the question is, will this offense evolve, and what will it look like?
No, correct. And even though they won the game against the Jets,
They're
they won
fine.
11-6. And I know the Jets were a very good defense, but it's not like they solved the Jets defense. They won 11-6 because the Jets offense at that point was extraordinarily dysfunctional. They had no offensive line left, and they had a statue back there at quarterback with Joe Flacco. And then in the playoffs, it was 34-31. They scored 31 points because their defense came up with 3 takeaways, including a fumble return for a touchdown. They had a 50-yard punt return by Cedric Wilson, and the offense gained 220 yards. So no, the offense, other than the Buffalo game on that Saturday night, and a lot of that was 67-yard run by Raheem Mostert, and the one to Waddle that I don't remember how many yards. It may have been 65 in that neighborhood, where he runs a deep slant and basically outruns the defense for a touchdown. But no, they didn't come up with answers. And to your point, yeah, we won't know until we actually see it.
Yeah.
Anything else on our mind?
We thank everybody for watching and listening. We're stuck. No, nothing at all. We got 2 minutes. So we thank you for watching and listening, paying attention, tuning in. This is our first regular season edition of the All Dolphins podcast. We definitely want to make sure that we're delivering what you want and what you need. You can find us at the Fans First Sports Network. You can find us on YouTube by searching All Dolphins, and on all podcast streaming sites by Dolphins Insiders. Is that correct?
Podcast, it's under Miami Dolphins Insider, correct. And you can read our work on alldolphins.com,
Yes.
and all of it for free. And speaking of free, we're actually going to spend some money probably between now and tomorrow, so Omar can get himself some better internet, so his picture doesn't freeze constantly the way it did in this particular episode. But
I've been working with these people. I'm just going to have to break the contract because I've even upgraded and it's not working. Now I got to get a new router. So
yes,
I apologize to everyone.
But the words came across loud and clear, and your great points, were made. So hopefully everybody paid attention, and we'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully we get the injury report, the final injury report, which is the one where we get the game status designation.
Yeah, we got to wait for that one.
We got to wait for that one and see if Terron Armstead's going to be out or he's going to be doubtful. I'd be shocked if he was questionable. They don't do probable anymore, so that's not even a consideration. So anyway, we'll find out tomorrow, and we'll catch you then.